But not that long ago, Russia wasn't huge. In fact, relative to empires and their borders, Russia was kind of a small fish. And that's the story I want to tell you. 1,000 years ago, Russia looked like this: a loose group of Slavic peoples who were a growing and prosperous society here in Eastern Europe. But they had a pretty big weakness, and that weakness looked like this. These are flat grasslands, which are very easy to cross if you're an army looking to pillage land. And that's exactly what a group of horse-riding warriors did. These guys were the Mongols, and they basically used this path of flat grasslands to traverse across Asia and expand their empire. 40,000 of these Mongol guys on horses with bows and arrows eventually made it all the way here to the Slavic peoples of Russia. Here's an image of them invading the cities and burning them down, conquering these people. Look at how scared these people look. I mean, I would be too if 40,000 Mongols on horseback rode into my city. Anyway, so the Mongols take over this little block of Slavic people, and it really weakens their society. It breaks up all the cities that were sort of collaborating with each other, and now they're paying taxes to the Mongols, like this empire that was from super far away, like on the other side of the world. But there was one city in this area that was particularly ready to fight back. They were quietly getting more powerful. This city was called Muscovy, or Moscow eventually, and it became the regional epicenter for trading fur, which is a thing that was becoming all the rage in Europe. Moscow was also learning how to use gunpowder and guns and technology from Europe, and before long, they were able to punch back against the Mongols, whose big-ass empire was getting really big and hard to maintain, and it was sort of starting to crack, and Moscow was there to take advantage of this. I mean, let's be honest. There's only so long you can keep an empire that looks like this together. Way too big. I mean, this is the biggest land empire in history, but it didn't last long, even though they had these badass warriors on horseback. Anyway, so yeah, Moscow started punching back. They had fur money and they had gunpowder, and they were having success pushing the Mongols out and moving east. One thing's for sure, said Moscow, which was soon becoming the Russian Empire, we're not gonna let anyone sneak up on us again like the Mongols did. And everyone over here sort of chuckled in European and said, don't you realize that the only way to keep people out is to have like mountains and water to protect you? And the Russians were like, oh yeah, you mean like these? And the Europeans were like, nice. So Moscow, which was just a city but is now becoming the Russian Empire, starts expanding towards these mountains, and soon they have like a nice empire-sized set of borders. Some mountains for protection, they have an economy of fur, they have technology and commerce, they're getting rich. Things are looking good for Russia. But wait a minute, can we overlay that green layer on the map that shows the superhighway of grasslands that the Mongols used to invade? Yeah, that one. That one. Ugh, look, there's a flaw in the plan. Nice try, Russia, but you see that this natural border, which is great, has a huge gap of flat grasslands that people can easily pass directly on their way to Moscow. So it's the middle of the 1500s. Moscow has beat back the Mongols, is expanding east. They're doing their fur thing. They find kind of a natural border, but it doesn't really work. So they're still looking for a natural border or water or something to buffer their country to the east. And then this terrible guy comes into power. His name was literally Ivan the Terrible. And he had some pretty big ambitions for expanding Russia. He's like, dude, we don't need to stop at these mountains. Let's see how far we can push this thing east, way past the mountains. What he finds on the other side of these mountains is a very sparsely populated land of ice called Siberia. There wasn't a lot of people here, and the people that were there weren't super resistant to this Russian takeover. The main thing that the Russians had to fight against was the cold. But with cold comes furry animals who have thick coats of fur, which again was incredibly valuable in European markets. And that helped fuel this race to just keep going east. is it just me, or are they sort of overcompensating? Like, yeah, we get it. You got invaded by the Mongols and like you want to like make sure it doesn't happen again, but like settle down. They just kept moving east till eventually they reached the Pacific Ocean, the edge of the world. But they didn't stop there. They just kept going. I mean, listen, this is so far away from the original starting point of Moscow. And it started to get to the point where the government back in Moscow was sort of sending out expeditions, not really sure what they were doing and what they were taking over because they couldn't really like stay in touch with them. They were just sort of hoping for the best. After one Russian dude went out on an expedition and conquered some remote city in the Far East, a government official back in Moscow said, nobody really knows why he did that and to what end. There is, however, something erotic taking place in the borders of our empire. Erotic. I guess that's one way to talk about it.